Today's class will be given by His Grace Chaitanya Lila Das Prabhuji on Srimad Bhagavatam, verses from 4.9.51 onwards. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you are there on the call?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Chaitanya Lila Das here. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavas Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you Prabhuji for giving your valuable time and association in this conference call. We are very fortunate to have you on this call, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. You can start, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Bhargavi Mataji. So I'd like to welcome all the devotees who have joined on the conference call with us today. We'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 4th, Chapter 9, Text 51 and 52. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, chapter entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, text number 51. The text reads, Tam sashamsur janarajim dishtya te putra artiha pratilabdhaschiram nashto rakshita mandalam bhuvaha. Word by word meanings. Tam, unto Queen Suniti, Sashamso, offered praise, Jana, the people in general, Ragyam, unto the queen, Dishtya, by fortune, Te, your, Putra, son, Artiha, will vanquish all your pains, Pratilabdha, now returned, Chiram, since a long time, Nashtaha, lost, Rakshita, will protect, Mandalam, the globe, Bhuvaha, earthly. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The residents of the palace praised the queen. Dear queen, your beloved son was lost a long time ago, and it is your great fortune that he has now come back. It appears therefore that your son will be able to protect you for a very long time and will put an end to all your material pangs. So this particular verse doesn't have a purport, so we'll move on to the next verse, verse 52. Abhyarchitastvaya nunam bhagavan pranatartiha yad anudhyayino dhira mrityum jigyu sudurjayam. Word by word meanings. Abhyarchitah, worshipped, tvaya, by you, nunam, however, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, pranata artiha, who can deliver his devotees from the greatest danger, yat, whom, anudhyayinaha, constantly meditating upon, dhira, great saintly persons, mrityum, death, jigyu, conquered, sudurjayam, which is very, very difficult to overcome. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Dear Queen, you must have worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead who delivers his devotees from the greatest danger. Persons who constantly meditate upon him surpass the course of birth and death. This perfection is very difficult to achieve. Purport. Dhruv Maharaj was the lost child of Queen Suniti, but during his absence, she always meditated upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is able to rescue his devotee from all dangers. While Dhruv Maharaj was absent from his home, not only did he undergo severe austerities in the forest of Madhuvan, but at home also, his mother prayed to the Supreme Lord for his safety and good fortune. In other words, the Lord was worshipped by both the mother and the son, and both were able to achieve the supreme benediction from the Supreme Lord. The word Sudurjayam, an adjective which indicates that no one can conquer death, is very significant. When Dhruv Maharaj was away from his home, his father thought that he was dead. Ordinarily, a king's son, only 5 years old and away from home in the forest, would certainly be supposed dead. But by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not only was he saved, but he was blessed with the highest perfection. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this beautiful section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 9th chapter, 51 and 56, 51st and 52nd verse, we are reading, wherein it is being explained that how Dhruva is now returned home and he is being welcomed. He is being welcomed by King Uttanapad and both the queens Suruchi as well as Suniti, and the residents of the palace are praising Queen Suniti that how it's her great fortune that now her son is back, and the queen is also being praised as to how she must have also worshipped the Supreme Lord who delivers his devotee from the greatest danger. And the expression, the desire of Suruchi is also the desire of Suniti is also being exclaimed herein as to how she is also very happy that her son is now finally back. And this whole episode of Dhruva, young Dhruva returning back home is so very instructional for us. We have heard this principle that how separation makes the heart grow fonder. How separation makes the heart grow fonder. Many times when we are very closely associating, maybe we may not feel so much of affection and so much of interaction, but when there is some separation, and this is what happened when Dhruva was present very much inside the palace, we have learned that how he was not very much acknowledged, he was not very much respected by Suruchi, and even his father kind of treated him a bit indifferently. But now, because he has been away for a while, more so ever now that he has had the fortune of seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead and being blessed by him, he is being welcomed so very eagerly by all the members of the palace as well as the kingdom, people in the kingdom. One very important thing that is being mentioned by Srila Prabhupada here, that how it was not just Dhruva who worshipped the Lord. Srila Prabhupada writes that the Lord was worshipped by both the mother and the son. The son Dhruva was worshipping the Supreme Lord in the forest, and here was Mother Suniti who was worshipping the Supreme Lord for his safety in her own palace. And this is something I would like to focus on today, that how we have heard many times that it was because of Dhruva's devotion that when Dhruva was leaving for the Vaikuntha planets, was leaving to the spiritual world, he saw that his mother is also there in a separate airplane and she is also traveling. And we have heard that it was just due to Dhruva's devotion that his mother also went to the spiritual world. But this particular verse gives a very beautiful uh, understanding of the whole thing, that how it is not just the devotion of Dhruva, it is also the devotion of Queen Suniti which played a part. And therefore uh, something that each of us can understand or take a lesson from this particular episode is that how for personal elevation a personal endeavor is very much required. We may have the association of devotees. The association of devotees is a very necessary factor for personal elevation, but the association of devotees is not just a sufficient factor. In that association there has to be personal endeavor, because Krishna consciousness is a personal journey of every individual, and every individual needs to take up that journey in the association of devotees, taking inspiration, taking guidance, and moving ahead on his path of Krishna consciousness. And this is exactly what Suniti had been doing. So I would like to focus on today that how this spiritual journey of a sadhaka is not just his own exercise, is not just his own endeavor, but even on this endeavor, how Krishna plays a very important role, how Krishna cares for the sadhaka on his spiritual journey. So I have just made a short acronym called CARE, where how Krishna, he cares for the sadhaka on the spiritual journey of the sadhaka. So in this acronym CARE, the C stands for the connectivity channels that are provided by Krishna. A stands for the answers to the doubts, the dilemma, the difficulties that a sadhaka undergoes on his spiritual path, and how Krishna provides those answers to the doubts and dilemma of the spiritual practitioner. The R in this acronym CARE refers to the realizations and convictions that a sadhaka collects on his spiritual journey, which act as a very important tool for him to keep moving ahead, those realizations. And finally, the E refers to the experience, how a sadhaka experiences, getting closer to Krishna. So, like we have heard that how the nature of the living beings is to connect, because having good connections in our life is what gives an increased feeling of security. I mean, just imagine going to a place where you're totally, you don't have any connectivity. The mobile connectivity is not there. Maybe even the power connectivity is not there. The Wi-Fi connectivity is not there. So in such a situation, people feel kind of out of place. And therefore, the more we are properly connected, we have experienced that the more we are in connection with people. Today is an age of online connectivity, and people feel so much secure when they have such nice online connectivity with them. But then ultimate connectivity is when the living entity connects properly to Krishna, because in this material world the living entity is subjected to the waves of the material world. Just like Dhruva, we are seeing here how Dhruva was also being victimized by one such wave. The desire of Dhruva within his heart was to acquire a kingdom which was greater than that of his father, even Lord Brahma. And that was the desire that Dhruva was having, which is a very typical characteristic of these waves that we are talking about, the waves of the Bhavasagar. And therefore Krishna, he sends his representatives to help us connect to him. So the very first thing that Krishna provides is these connectivity channels. Krishna doesn't just leave the living entity to struggle all upon himself in this material world, but Krishna provides, he sends his representatives. And here is Dhruva, who is approached by Narad Muni and is guided by Narad Muni how he can connect properly with Krishna. And once one connects properly with Krishna, all of his problems are solved. We have heard a small fable, a small story of how one time there was a man who had 19 horses, and when the man was about to die, he wrote his will. that how his horses could be distributed amongst his 3 sons. So when the man actually passed away, the sons got hold of his will and went through it, and the man had written that of the total number of horses, 50% of the total number of horses should be given to the first son. 1/4 of the total number of horses should be given to the second son, and 1/5 of the total number of horses should be given to the third son. Now, the irony was that the total number of horses that the man had was 19. Now, how do you divide 19 in half, in 1/4 and 1/5? So the sons were pretty much puzzled. And just then, there was this another man who came riding on his own horse, and he heard the entire problem, and he said, okay, I'll give my horse in donation to you, just consider my horse as one of yours. So now the total number of horses were not 19 but 20, and the man started dividing the total number as per the will of the deceased father, and he gave half of the total number of horses, the 10 horses, to the first son, 1/4 of the total number of horses, which is 5 horses, to the second son, 1/5 of the total number of horses, which comes to 4, to the third son. So 10 plus 5 plus 4 amounts to 19. So when the 3 sons had these 19 horses, this person who had arrived with his own horse took away his horse and rode away. The essence, the moral out of this story that I just mentioned is that how many times we may also struggle very much hard to find solutions to the problems we might be going through in life. And it might be really very much difficult to just figure out how to address them. But then when there is a small connection, just like these sons got connected with this one person who had come with his horse, the entire problem was solved very quickly. So similarly, when each of us actually get connected to Krishna, we find how the problems of life start getting solved eventually. Just like a magnet, when a magnet is passed over a group of iron filings, these iron filings start to rearrange themselves. And therefore, the very first thing that Krishna expects of the living entities in this material world is to get soundly, properly connected to him. Because Krishna, one of the names of Krishna is Rama. Rama means one who is the source of all pleasure. That how one attains pleasure by connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that was the first C, the connectivity principles that are provided by Krishna. The A in this acronym CARE we are discussing today refers to the answers to the doubts and dilemma of a sadhaka, of a devotee, which is provided by Krishna through the channel of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Because the characteristic of a good teacher doesn't just give lessons. A good teacher also helps the student with solving the problem he is undergoing. So similarly, a sadhaka may know how to connect with Krishna. He may have the connectivity principles, the connectivity channels, but then once the sadhaka starts connecting, once the sadhaka embarks on his process of Krishna consciousness, there are bound to be doubts, there are bound to be difficulties, both philosophical and practical, which are then addressed by more experienced people, in the form of the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So yes, when Uddhava went through difficulties, when Arjuna went through difficulties, when Pandavas went through difficulties, Krishna was there personally to help them out with their doubts and difficulties. But then for us, for the sadhakas in this world, Krishna has provided these helplines in the form of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And therefore we need to take benefit of their presence. So it is explained that how these Shastras, they are like detailed wisdom. They provide a very detailed wisdom to traverse the path of Krishna consciousness. So it is explained that how Bhagavad Gita explains the truths about the Supreme Lord, the truths of God. The Srimad Bhagavatam describes about the character of God, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita describes the mind and feelings of God. And when we go through these basic scriptures, at least we are able to understand the entire personality of Krishna. The sadhus and the acharyas, they are the people who have practiced this wisdom of the Shastras in the past and have shared it for the rest of humanity. And the spiritual master, the guru, is one who embodies these teachings and is there to personally help the devotee. And here in this episode we are discussing, we've seen that how Dhruva has received his guidance from Narad Muni. Because journey in this material world is not going to be easy. In the 15th chapter of the Gita, the third verse of the 15th chapter describes, Na rupamasyeha tathopalabhyate nanto na cha adir na cha sampratishtha ashwatthamenam suvirudha moolam asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. But how these scriptures, the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, gives us that required knowledge and the determination to deal with it. And Srila Prabhupada writes a very beautiful purport to this particular verse. I'll just read out. One has to search out the origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who are in the knowledge of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, by proper understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality. And by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. The word asanga is very important in this connection because the attachment for sense gratification and lording it over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. I typically give this example. I'm not sure if it's present in the US, but in India we have a real-time show, Kaun Banega Karodpati, the KBC. And in that particular TV show, questions are asked by a celebrity, and the contestant is supposed to give answers. But in case the contestant doesn't have answers to the question that is being asked, he has some helplines available to him. He can either ask a friend, or he can ask the host to just remove 2 of the options of the 4 options that are present, or maybe there is another third helpline as well. And when the contestant is in difficulty, he is expected to use those helplines. Now just try to imagine if a person doesn't know answer to the question that is being asked, and he still has all these helplines available, but he doesn't make use of them. Now that is not intelligence. Something similar when we come to the process of Krishna consciousness, we have these helplines available to us. We have the wisdom in the Shastras, we have the life and teachings of the previous acharyas, and we have the personal example of the spiritual master present before us. And therefore, because we have these books, the acharyas and devotees around us to help, we can take benefit of their help, provided that we want to be benefited. So yes, Krishna has provided these connectivity channels. Krishna is providing the answers to our doubts and difficulties on our spiritual journey through these channels, and it behooves us to actually approach and seek shelter of these channels that are being provided by Krishna. The third thing that Krishna gives on the path of, on the journey of a spiritual aspirant, is realizations. In this acronym CARE, the C we discussed was the connectivity channels, the connectivity principles. The A was the answers through the medium of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. The R refers to the realizations. And these realizations and convictions that a sadhaka accumulates on his spiritual journey, they act as fuel for the spiritual vehicle of a sadhaka. Because in the initial stage, a devotee might be pushed, he might be encouraged, he might be guided by other devotees. But as a sadhaka continues in his process, continues on his journey of Krishna consciousness, he needs to have sufficient fuel with himself. And this fuel are his own personal realizations of Krishna consciousness. One time I was traveling in an airplane, I was flying from somewhere, and I just happened to observe this, that as the aircraft was being taxied out of the tarmac, they call it, and as the aircraft was being taken to the runway, I observed that this aircraft is such a big, huge vehicle, but still it needs a push from an external vehicle. An external vehicle is required to actually push the aircraft so that it can move ahead till the runway. But eventually it is not that small little vehicle that has pushed the aircraft behind on the tarmac, on the parking lot. It is not because of that small little vehicle that the aircraft actually flies up in the air. Eventually the aircraft needs to have sufficient fuel of itself in order to complete its journey. So similarly, on our own spiritual journey, initially there had been the push of other devotees, the encouragement, the inspiration, and that continues to be there. But all said and done, we also need to accumulate these convictions and realizations as we move ahead on the path of Krishna consciousness. Dhruva was given these realizations by the personal darshan of Krishna, and how Krishna, he touched the conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva, and Dhruva, it is explained that how all the wisdom of these scriptures, all these realizations immediately dawned upon within the heart of Dhruva. But then, for us, as we move ahead in our Krishna consciousness, we need to accumulate these convictions which are provided by the Paramatma from within the heart. How Krishna, as the super soul, he provides those convictions from within the heart, which helps us to see the world in a different perspective. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 10th chapter, 11th verse, he mentions, Tesham evanukampartham aham ajnanajam tamah nashayami atma bhavastho jnana deepena bhaswata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness that is born of ignorance. And when a devotee actually has these realizations, this is what actually defines the maturity within a devotee. How a devotee is different in his dealings with the various situations and the different people in this world is what determines what kind of a realization has he accumulated on his spiritual path. And finally, the experiences of Krishna consciousness. It is mentioned that how the experiences of past sense enjoyment by a conditioned soul becomes a cause of difficulty in his spiritual life. So yes, the experiences of past enjoyment becomes a cause of difficulty many times in our own spiritual lives. But the experiences of pleasing Krishna becomes a cause of consistency in our spiritual life. And whereas the first kind of experience acts as a barrier to go back, the second kind of experience, the experiences of pleasing Krishna, of serving Krishna, acts as a catalyst to push us ahead in our spiritual journey. And therefore it is recommended that this has to be the mission of a devotee, that a devotee is supposed to bombard his or her life with rich spiritual experiences of Krishna consciousness. Subject ourselves to the beautiful experiences that the process of Krishna consciousness has in store for us. because this experience of pleasing Krishna is a unique gift by Krishna to his devotees. In one of the conversations, Srila Prabhupada is explaining about the festivals that are there in Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada is speaking that one may take pleasure in spiritual festivals, performances of particular pastimes of Lord Krishna, or activities of other devotees of the Lord. In this way, one can continually increase one's faith in the personality of Godhead. And we have had our own experiences, each of us have had our own experiences in Krishna consciousness, which has kept us hooked in the spiritual life. Whether they be the experience of the beautiful festivals of Krishna consciousness we have attended in the past, whether they are the experiences of serving the deities that we worship, or maybe experiences of preaching, or if not anything, at least the experience of prasad, which no one can deny. And therefore these experiences, they act as barrier for a spiritual sadhaka to revert back, to go back. Because as soon as the mind proposes, maybe this is not proper, why don't you shift back, there are these experiences which act as strong barriers, and which give those, which gives that determination to the sadhaka. No, it's not like that. No matter what the current situation is, I have experienced Krishna consciousness, I have experienced the beauty of spiritual life, and therefore the fight must go on, like that. So that's how Krishna, he helps a spiritual sadhaka on his spiritual journey by providing connectivity channels, by providing these answers to the doubts of a devotee, by providing realizations and experiences. Today also happens to be the disappearance day of one of our very revered acharyas, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. And I'd like to correlate that how this principle of care, these connectivity channels, these answers, these realizations and experiences, this principle of care was so very much visible in the life of His Divine Grace as well. So it is explained that how 500 years back, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had appeared to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement, it is explained that over a period of time, like the Gita mentions, the vibrancy of Krishna consciousness that was inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been going down at a very rapid pace. And during the time of His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, it is explained that so many sub-religious groups and so many pseudo-religious groups claiming themselves to be the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but not following the principles that were taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had come up in the society. And it was then that when this Gaudiya Vaishnava line was kind of a diminishing, was these principles of, pure principles of Vaishnavism were kind of diminishing from the mainstream society, that is when Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they came up very brilliantly and they revived it very nicely. There is a beautiful episode one time, how there was a competition at a place called Midnapur in West Bengal. So this was a kind of a debate between the Smarth Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. And the Smarth Brahmanas, they were very much wanting to prove their principles and how Vaishnavism was not the highest, how different philosophical things were under observation. And the Vaishnavas, they were very much kind of afraid as to, if someone doesn't represent the Vaishnava philosophy properly, how could the Vaishnava line be properly established? And therefore they had chosen Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur as their representative to come over to Midnapur and explain the pure principles of Vaishnavism. But Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur unfortunately counteracted very high fever, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he knew that even if I am not able to go, let Bhakti Siddhanta, he sent his son, whose name, I think it's something different that point of time. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he went to Midnapur, and when he started speaking, firstly he glorified the Brahmin community very much, and all the Brahmins who were present, they started to become very happy that how, on whose side is he? Is he on the side of the Vaishnavas or is he on the side of the Brahmanas? And they started to become very happy that he is glorifying all the Brahmanas. And then Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he explained who is actually a Brahmana and who is actually a Vaishnava. Now when he put up those principles, everything was crystal clear, and it is explained that how upon the completion of that debate, thousands of people in the audience were so happy, and they rushed to take the dust off his lotus feet. We see from this just but one small little example that how Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he provided once again that connectivity channel to the mainstream society, so that people could take up these pure principles of Krishna consciousness and follow in their lives. Not just that, he also advised Abhay Charan, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, to preach the message of Krishna consciousness in the English language in the Western world. Had it not been for this one particular instruction of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I personally would seriously doubt how we all would have been benefiting from this beautiful process of Krishna consciousness. So yes, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he provided these connectivity channels by once again bringing up the Gaudiya Vaishnava line into limelight, once again instructing Srila Prabhupada to preach Krishna consciousness far and wide all over the world. And not just that, he also started the printing presses everywhere. He called it the Brihad Mridanga, and he published many periodicals and books, and that is, all these things acted as strong connectivity channels for devotees, for sadhakas, to increase their connection to Krishna. Not just that, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had all answers to the practical and philosophical doubts of his devotees. Srila Prabhupada used to say that my Guru was a walking encyclopedia. He was also known as the Simha Guru, the Lion Guru. Why? Because he was very, very strict against deviant philosophies and other practitioners, especially the Mayavada practitioners. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he personally taught through his own life that how it is those realizations that are very much required for a sadhaka to keep continuing in his spiritual journey. Now this particular verse that we are discussing today from the Srimad Bhagavatam talks about personal endeavor, talks about the endeavor that was made by Dhruva in the forest, and talks about the endeavor that was made by Queen Suniti in her palace. So both had made their endeavors which resulted in their own respective Krishna conscious realizations. Similarly, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also made that personal endeavor. Now we may consider that he was born in a very high class Vaishnava family, he was born to Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Maharaj, but it was not just his his high birth. We know that how Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, before he started preaching Krishna consciousness, he was there in Mayapur for a good 9 years chanting the holy names of Krishna, and he chanted millions and billions of the holy names of the Lord, following very strict discipline, very strict daily routine. And when he made those personal endeavors, these personal endeavors gave birth to the convictions and realizations that he later on shared with the entire world. So yes, similarly for us sadhakas, it is those personal endeavors that attract the mercy of the Lord, that attract the convictions, that encourage the super soul from within the heart to give us the convictions and realizations in Krishna consciousness. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also experienced Krishna consciousness himself and provided that experience to others. Now it is mentioned that one can only teach what he knows, and one can only provide experience to the degree one is himself experiencing the bliss of Krishna consciousness within his heart. So similarly, we see the kind of contribution, the kind of service that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made to the society is simply unparalleled. And he started the very concept of structured association of devotees. Up until then, there had not been any kind of a structured association. Yes, devotees had been there, individual practitioners had been there, but then it was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who instituted a structure so that people, general, devotees in general, can benefit and experience Krishna consciousness with minimal endeavor. And with this motive, he started the Gaudiya Math at different places all over India. And it was this structure, this concept of the Gaudiya Math, which was later emulated by Srila Prabhupada, they formed the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And Prabhupada repeatedly mentioned that how this society is nothing but to provide experience of Krishna consciousness to the people who walk into this society. So yes, these lives of our acharyas, lives of acharyas like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they are like a lighthouse. Just like a lighthouse that guides the ship on its journey, similarly the lives and teachings of these acharyas, they guide the ship of our life. How do we move ahead in our Krishna consciousness? How do we tackle the doubts and difficulties in our Krishna consciousness? How do we accumulate those realizations and convictions in our Krishna consciousness? And how to experience the bliss that Krishna is ready to offer to all of us. And when we take shelter of the lotus feet of such elevated souls, we also benefit in a very great manner. And these lives of acharyas, these activities of acharyas cannot be imitated, but one should endeavor to progress towards those ideals. We may not be able to follow those ideals, we may not be able to chant continuously for 9 years, we may not be able to be very much astute in debates and talking to Mayavadis and very strict against people who are not following the pure principles. We may not be able to be like him, but these golden standards are there to show where we should be heading, the direction in which each of us should be heading. And therefore, just to summarize all that we have been discussing today, that all of these verses of Srimad Bhagavatam ultimately inspires us to keep marching in our own spiritual life, and how making that personal endeavor is very much required for personal elevation. Saw the example of Queen Suniti and the example of Dhruva as well. So yes, association is a necessary factor. The association of devotees is a necessary factor, but it is not a sufficient factor. In association, there has to be activity, which results in proper results. And how Krishna consciousness is a personal journey of every individual. Srila Prabhupada, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he gives a beautiful in the episode, when the chapter where the Pandavas, they are returning back after the Pandavas, they understand that Krishna has left, and they understand it's now time for us to also give up the kingdom of Hastinapur and endeavor to perfect our spiritual life. So in that particular chapter, it has been explained that how Yudhishthir Maharaj, followed by Bhima, followed by Arjuna, followed by Nakula and Sahadev and Draupadi, they start marching towards the Himalayas. They have given up the kingdom of Hastinapur and they are now walking ahead towards the Himalayas to perfect their own consciousness. And the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that how when the Pandavas are moving ahead, Draupadi, she's unable to move ahead, she's unable to cope up, and she falls. Now when Draupadi falls, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakul and Sahadev, they don't look back and they don't carry Draupadi along with them. Now it is the same Draupadi for which the Pandavas fought the entire war of Kurukshetra. It is the same Draupadi for which Bhima had taken the vow, and he fulfilled the vow of tearing apart the thighs of Dushasan, of defeating Duryodhan. For this Draupadi, the entire Pandavas had sacrificed their lives. But when it was time to perfect their Krishna consciousness at the faggot of their lives, the Pandavas, they didn't look back. And Srila Prabhupada, he writes a very, very beautiful sentence in that particular purport. And Prabhupada puts there that ultimately one has to fly one's own plane. The onus of a devotee to perfect his Krishna consciousness lies on him individually. Just like a pilot who might be undergoing training as to how to fly a plane, he might be in the association of other trainers in the classroom when the training is going on, and he might be learning the principles how to fly a plane. He might be learning about the different controls, he might be learning about the different situations, how to handle the different situations. But then once the trainer actually gets into his own plane and he takes off, he is in complete control of his own plane. So similarly here Srila Prabhupada is also encouraging the devotees to take up that responsibility, to understand how perfection of one's own life is an individual responsibility. This human form of life is a very, very rare and beautiful benediction by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, like the Vedanta Sutra mentions, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now that you have attained the human form of life, please inquire about the absolute truths, about the purpose of life, about the creation, the creativity and the creator, and perfect. Get out of this repeated cycle of birth and death, this life in the material world, into an eternal life full of knowledge and bliss in the association of Krishna and his eternal associates. And therefore this individual responsibility has to be understood by each of us, and Krishna is there to help us. We are not alone on this journey. Like we discussed, Krishna is there to care for us. He has provided the connectivity channels, he is providing the answers and association of devotees, he has providing, as the super soul, he is providing the convictions and realizations from within the heart, and he is also providing the experiences that we accumulate on our journey of Krishna consciousness. I think with those words I'd like to pause here. If anyone has any questions, maybe we can take up a few questions.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This is Komadakitasi. Very, very nice. You have explained. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I don't have questions. It was very, very wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very, very beautiful class Prabhuji, like how we have to handle ourselves in devotional life. You explained very beautiful Prabhu, and especially the pilot example that you have given, that he have to drive himself even though he learned so many things. Finally he have to use his hands and he have to just drive himself. We have to do ourselves even though we listen so many lectures and all. Applying and doing ourselves is needed. That is very nice Prabhuji. So beautiful examples you have given, like how you are telling about, like we have so many options but we don't take them and we are not utilizing them. So many beautiful examples and very nice class Prabhu. Thank you so much for the beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dana Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj.
Prabhuji, very nice class. Especially you were telling how sadhaka should be. Can you explain a little bit how we define ourselves as a sadhaka, Prabhu?
But it's pretty simple. Krishna, actually Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is explaining the process of sadhana bhakti. He is explaining that how the different aspects of Krishna consciousness, starting from hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnum. He gives the 9 processes of Krishna consciousness, and how anyone who is trying to follow these principles of hearing, like we have come here, we have got together even on an online forum. I mean, I guess Srila Prabhupada must be very, very happy seeing, and I keep seeing the vibrancy of this group that is there on the WhatsApp group. My goodness, so many classes every day, so many different speakers, so many different activities with kids reciting shlokas. It's so encouraging. So when devotees come together, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions, Yat chitta madgata prana bodhayantah paras mat chitta madgata prana bodhayantah parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. That whenever my devotees, they come together and discuss topics concerning me, that is when they attain tushyanti, satisfaction, and ramanti, bliss in their lives. So yes, anyone who is following any of these principles of hearing, chanting, worshipping the Supreme Lord, praying to the Supreme Lord, worshipping the deities, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, any of these processes to any extent, in a broader sense, he could be called a sadhaka.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah. Sometimes it's very confusing. We are doing as a practicing sadhana bhakti or not, because so many things is distraction, and then we are not focusing so much in our spiritual life.
I would like to give a very small example which will help us understand. Just like maybe when there is a garage, when there is a car garage, so the people who are working in the car garage, many times they have to slid at the bottom of the car, and they may have to repair those machinery of the car, and when they come out, they're like soaked with all kinds of black stuff and grease and everything, right? So when this person who has been working, he is all covered with dirt. Now when such a person, he starts taking shower, the very fact that the person has started to take a shower goes to say that very soon he is going to come out clean of all the impurities that he has accumulated. So even though right by getting into the shower one doesn't get cleansed, it takes time for him to get completely cleansed before he comes out. So similarly, in our own journey in this material world, so much of dirt, I don't know how many cars we have been repairing in the form of material desires, and we have accumulated so much of dirt in this material world. But the good thing is that we are under the shower. This is the shower of mercy. These are the showers of blessings of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. We are under this shower today, and it is only a matter of time that we are also going to come out clean. So yes, the very fact that we appear to be filled with dirt or whatever, but the very fact that if we are subjecting ourselves properly to the shower, it is only a matter of time that we'll also come out clean. So therefore there has to be hope. There has to be hope. Does that answer your question, Madhavi?
Yes, Prabhu. I also like the example you have given, that 19 hours, which is divided by the 3 suns, and then how the person help like that. In with devotee association, we can solve so many problems, even when we have difficulties, everything. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Madhavi.
Jai
Jai. Thank you, Anjana Gopi. Thank you, Prabhuji. Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam to your seva. Yes, Prabhuji. This group is given a energy because we are coming from, everybody is from their own, like me from Sri Radha Gopinath, Mumbai. So get so strong association. And when I came abroad, I don't get association. Only temple is not enough, Prabhu. But this group is especially Anjana Gopika's chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. It's just live, Prabhu, and every day gets so sincere Vaishnava association. We are not qualified for that, but still, Prabhu, such a strong association we get by staying at home, because sometimes some restriction is there, we are not able to go for Bhakti Vriksha or counseling meeting or Maharaj disciple meeting. Only temple we can go. So Prabhuji, thank you very much for your association. Today class is inspiring, and you have given us so nice example from Shri Bhagavatam. Also, you given an example of today only, just before half an hour before before starting japa, one new Prabhuji is asking the question that what mood we have to shout Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, and you answer it very nicely that Srila Prahlad Maharaj example, Nautha Bhakti. And one more thing I want to add, Prabhuji, with your permission, that I hear from Srila Prabhupada disciples that there is a fountain in Sri Radha Gopinath temple, so that when you proud of your position, like I am a president or I am a great book distribution, nobody can cook like me or nobody can make garland like me. When ego died, then only bhakti will start. And there is a fountain in Shri Radha Gopinath, so that fountain is going up and down. So when we have a proud, we just down from the bhakti. All the seva is given by the mercy of Shri Radha Gopinath, Srimati Radharani, and Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev. And yes, Prabhuji, we are so fortunate that every day get such a strong association by sitting home. Then God pranam Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Do we have any more questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, August, Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. A very wonderful class, and like Vrinda Gopika Mataji said, we are very grateful to all the devotees who join every day and who give classes, and so many now. The conference has grown so much, like Chaitanya Charitamrita class, Lila Amrita reading, and kids classes, and kids are taking so much interest in giving presentations. So it's really wonderful, Prabhuji. I am very, very grateful to all of you, and thank you so much. You are giving class from all the way from India, even though you have very busy schedule. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. And thank you so much for speaking about Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Today is his disappearance day. It's very nice to hear about Acharyas on their disappearance day. So, and also we will be fasting until 12 o'clock today. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else has any questions or comments? Yeah, should we end now? Yeah, let's pay our obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha
kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnava
की जय, शील प्रभुपाद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, हिज ग्रेस चैतन्य लीला प्रभु की जय।